At the time of taping of this Barnstable Today, about 11 o'clock in the morning on Friday, one of the Boston Marathon bombing suspects is dead and another has launched a massive manhunt in the city of Boston. This morning, the city was virtually shut down with no MBTA service, no buses, trains, no taxis, and residents in the greater Boston area are ordered to stay at home and shelter in place while officials search for the second suspect, who they say is armed and dangerous. This week, we talked with several of our frequent guests on Barnstable this morning about Monday's marathon bombing. Of course, all the incidents happening today related to that. We take a look back at those interviews on this episode of Barnstable Today. It's Friday, April 19th, 2013. I'm Sarah Colvin. Today, more Barnstable police officers and vehicles headed up to Boston to provide mutual aid. The first wave, says Chief of Police Paul McDonald, arrived in the city Monday evening.
Horrific event. Our thoughts and prayers go out to the family. However, after the event occurred, all the EMS or first responders, I think they did a great job. They evacuated the scene as quickly as possible. Although this is a horrific event, what the good thing is they got world-class hospitals there, so everyone who was injured got the very, very best medical care in the whole world there. We got call for mutual aid. We did send our Bearcat up there, which is an armored personnel carrier. We set the vehicle up last night about 8 o'clock last night. And what they're doing with all those armored personnel carriers, they have SWAT teams from all over the state coming in to watch over and provide protection for certain assets they have throughout the city. And each one of those targeted areas, they want to have an armored vehicle presence there. So we are up there now as we speak, and we have officers up there.
Indeed, and I think the concern at this point is, what if there are some other unexploded devices around the city? I know that they, at least from the reports I've heard, they found 2 other ones that they were able to get out of there. But I think, obviously, certainly a heightened sense of security in Boston right now. Right.
The investigation is still ongoing. They're still trying to gather intelligence. They don't know when this event is going to end, but they have to keep digging and make sure the place is entirely cleared. So they'll be working on this for the next several days.
Indeed. Have there been other incidents in the past, Chief, when we've had to send officers up to Boston to help deal with something?
Only in training events. We do train. We had the tabletop exercise in one of the last Friday. We talked about bringing in armor from different parts of the state. Because these Bearcat vehicles they're very expensive, and there's probably only a dozen of them throughout the entire state. So when there is need, everybody has to be prepared and ready to respond.
Cape and Island State Senator Dan Wolf also talked with us Tuesday about the incident and his concerns following the bombing.
Well, Sarah, clearly this is something I've been thinking about for decades, because in the air transportation industry, as I am, we've been dealing with issues like this for a long time, and that is the balance of running an effective free society and providing those services in vulnerable places and at vulnerable events. To what degree do we affect those? I am going to start answering that question with one of my favorite Ben Franklin quotes, which is, "They who can give up essential liberty to obtain a little temporary safety deserve neither liberty nor safety." And, that is one of my favorite quotes, because we do have to remember that the price that we pay for an open and free society is that we are vulnerable. You can eliminate vulnerability by eliminating freedom and just have everything on lockdown. And, you and I had this discussion when we talked about gun violence and how we want to treat our schools. Do we want to have a total lockdown environment in schools? Do we want to have events like the Boston Marathon where we do not even let spectators watch at the finish line? Do we want to have air transportation where, it takes 6 hours to get through a security line, and then you ask yourself, was this really worth it? So it's a balancing act, and those of us in the public sector, those of us who are making decisions, I think have to be mindful of that. I am concerned that every time an event like this happens, and sadly enough, this won't be the last one, we ratchet it down a little bit. We put more cameras up, we put more security up, we put more screening up, and so that over the years, as more of these events happen, we become less and less of a free society. And it's the death by 1,000 cuts. So I am concerned that the leadership from the governor has been outstanding so far. The fact that the president weighed in is great. I think that we do have to put all of our resources into capturing and making it clear to those who think about doing things like this that they're not going to get away with it and that it's not going to be effective. We have to have all of that resolved. But I think we have to be really careful, too, not to commit to going further and further each time and taking us further and further away from the reason that we all love this country. And to make it local, we all love Boston. Boston is an incredible city. It's rich in history, it's rich in culture, it's rich in intellect and creative capital. There's just so many good things about Boston. The environment it's in is beautiful. And I just hate to think that we're going to distance all of our citizens more and more from the essence of what that city is about. So I think it is about balance. I think it's a huge commitment to find and punish the people who would do something that is just so unspeakably vile. But at the same time, I think we have to also commit to making sure that we don't play into the hands of those who do these things by making our society less and less of what we all try to protect every day. So that's a long-winded way of saying balance, balance, balance.
Absolutely, but I think you're absolutely right. I mean, certainly the ideals of freedom and liberty have a big base in personal responsibility. It's really up to all of us to respect the fact that we live in a free society, and so it's tragic when others kind of take advantage of that and chip it away. But as you say, it's important to remember that we do have to be strong, and we are vulnerable for being free. But again, the onus is really on us to respect the fact that we do live in a free society.
Well, and Sarah, as somebody who got into politics, as I did, to be part of a rational discourse about how we can make this place better for more people, I see an event like this, and I ask myself, is there any rational thought process that would make you believe that you would accomplish anything positive by doing an act like this? And the answer is no. I mean, I'm wondering what it is in the mind of the person who did this that they would like to see as an ultimate goal. Because, if we catch somebody and they represent a certain perspective in the world, it's just going to turn us more against that perspective. So, I don't understand. I've been involved in way back in my own past in acts of civil disobedience around matters of conscience, civil rights issues, and environmental issues. And I could always articulate what the goal was of why I was involved in those movements and those events. I can't understand the rational thought process.
State Representative Brian Mannell talked about the future for Boston and beyond when he joined us on Thursday.
Well, I think in the immediate next few weeks, there's certainly going to be a heightened security presence, and that will likely continue for as long as they feel a threat. But I think that we're going to shift as a society moving forward. And about 15 years ago, I spent time in Israel. And when I was over there, I was astonished at how wherever you go in, any mall or school or anywhere, there's someone checking your bag when you're going in. Same thing when you get on a bus. They're not worried about you stealing things, they're worried about you bringing something in. And I think that's what we're headed towards. I think we're headed towards a society in which people have to be aware and looking at packages that are left unattended, but also just being, more precautious. So.
Right. Well, I think the scary thing about Monday is the fact that you're not going through a gate. You're not going, into a closed area. This is a very public, very crowded area, people coming in and out. So I know that they did a couple of sweeps of the area in the morning and around noontime, but there's really no way to monitor all of the hundreds of thousands of people who are in and out of that area, especially for that. So certainly I think we'll be keeping an eye on that, definitely. Yeah. But I think that seeing the energy that's been coming out of the city of Boston, certainly the spirit of the city is not broken. I think everybody's ready to stay strong for this.
And I think that the rest of the country feels that they're right there with us.
On Monday afternoon, 3 people were killed and over 100 more were injured in the bombings. Last night, suspect number 1 was shot and killed. An MIT officer was killed during the altercation and a transit officer seriously injured. Again, suspect 2 is still at large. Again, at the time this episode was taped, news reports say the pair are brothers originally from the Chechnya region of Russia. Stay strong, Boston. With Barnstable Today, I'm Sarah Colvin.